Today, we're diving into one of the most versatile and frankly clever language models out there, BART. It's an AI that has this really unique way of learning, and that's exactly what makes it such a powerhouse.
So let's kick things off with a pretty cool question. You've probably heard of models like BERT, which are amazing at understanding the context of what you're saying. And then you've got models like GPT, which are just incredible at generating new creative text. But what if? What if you could mash those two superpowers together into one model? Well, that's pretty much the whole idea behind BART.
Here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to meet Bart and see why it's a hybrid powerhouse. Then, we'll get into its secret weapon, how it learns by fixing mistakes. After that, we'll see all the cool things it can do, take a peek at how you'd put it to work, and wrap up with why its flexible design is such a big deal for the future.
All right, let's get right to it and meet this hybrid powerhouse. The real magic of BART starts with its architecture. It's built from the ground up to combine two very different but equally powerful ways of thinking about language. So, what's in a name? BART stands for Bidirectional and Autoregressive Transformers. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but those first two words are everything. Bidirectional means it can look at a whole sentence, forwards and backwards, to get the full context. And autoregressive means it can generate brand new text one word at a time. It's designed from day one to do both jobs. Think of it like this. BART has a split personality, in the best way possible. It has an encoder, which acts a lot like BERT. Its job is to read the entire input, soak it all in, and really understand what's going on. But then it also has a decoder, which is more like GPT. Its job is to take that understanding and start writing, generating fresh text from scratch. This combo means BART can read a messy paragraph, figure out what it's supposed to mean, and then write out the clean version. Okay, this brings us to the really cool part, the secret sauce of what makes BART so smart. It sounds a little weird, but the key to making this AI a master of language is to, first, break the language you show it. The fancy term for this is a denoising objective, but forget the jargon. Imagine you want to become the world's best editor. You wouldn't just read perfectly polished novels, right? No, you'd want to dig into messy first drafts full of typos and weird sentences. By learning to find and fix all those mistakes, you truly master the rules of language. And that is exactly how BART is trained. Here's how that four-step dance works. First, you take a perfectly good piece of text. Step 2, you mess it up on purpose. Maybe you delete a few words, shuffle the sentences around, or just blank out a word. Then, in step 3, the encoder comes in. Its job is to read this whole disaster and figure out what went wrong. Finally, the decoder's job is to take that understanding and write the original perfect text. It's a genius way to force the model to learn grammar, context, and meaning all at the same time. So that's the theory. But what does this learning by fixing actually let BART do in the real world? Well, it turns out this isn't just some neat academic trick. It gives BART a whole toolbox of practical skills that are super useful. Think about it. Because BART gets so good at rebuilding a complete idea from a broken mess, it becomes an expert at spotting the most important information in a document. This makes it an absolute natural for summarization. Let's take a look at an example. Here's a pretty typical news blurb. It's got all the details, the why, the who, the how long. But what if you just want the headline, the core message? And boom, there it is. That's what BART gives you. It pulls out the single most important piece of information, the reason for the blackouts. See, it's not just cutting words. It understood the main point and then generated a new, perfect sentence to capture it. That's the encoder and decoder working together beautifully. All right, here's another cool trick that comes straight from its training, filling in the blanks. Let's give it this sentence. My friends are mask, but they eat too many carbs. That second part of the sentence, but they eat too many carbs, is a massive clue. So what does BART think the missing word is? And check out its top 5 guesses. Words like healthy, good, and great totally make sense. But look closer. The word not is right up there at the top. That's amazing. It shows that BART gets the subtle conversational contrast that the word but implies. That's some serious language intuition. And the list goes on. BART is also great at things like sequence classification. Reading a product review and deciding if it's positive or negative. And it's a pro at question answering, where it can find a specific answer buried inside a long article. All of these skills are just different flavors of its core understand and generate ability. Okay, so you might be thinking, this is cool, but how would I actually use something like this? Let's pop the hood for just a second and look at the main parts you'd be working with.
It pretty much comes down to these three key pieces. You've got the config, which is like the architect's blueprint for the model. Then there's the tokenizer, which is the universal translator that turns our words into numbers the AI can understand. And finally, you have the model itself. That's the brain of the operation, the engine doing all the real work.
And if you're the type who likes to get your hands dirty, the documentation has some great pro tips. For instance, it tells you to use a specific generate function for summarization, which makes sense because that's a creative task. It also points out that for filling in the blanks, the model is smart enough to create some of its own inputs, which just makes your life easier. These are the little details that show how thoughtfully it was designed for real use cases. All right, let's zoom out for our final thought. In the crazy, fast-moving world of AI, why does a model like BART really matter? The answer, in one word, is flexibility. And this is the main takeaway. BART is not a one-trick pony. Because it's mastered both understanding and creating language, it's a powerful generalist. You can take this one model and fine-tune it for a ton of different jobs without starting from scratch every time. It's this mix of deep comprehension and fluent generation that makes it one of the most adaptable tools we have in the AI toolbox today.
So that leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. This whole concept is built on learning by fixing what's broken. We've seen it work wonders with text, but what else could we apply it to? Could it learn to fix buggy computer code? Could it learn to optimize a messy supply chain? If the path to AI mastery is through finding and correcting flaws, what huge, complicated problems are out there just waiting for us to teach an AI how to solve them? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.